even though mosquitoes are dormant through the winter in Massachusetts, because it does get cold here, we're working year-round on managing mosquito populations.
With warm evenings becoming less frequent and colder weather in sight, the dreaded 2024 mosquito season is coming to a close.
Yeah, we're having a lot of disease isolations and human cases, as well as some horse cases. So it has been a pretty active year for Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus, both. We do typically get West Nile virus cases every year. That is pretty standard, but we are seeing a fair number this year. And Eastern equine encephalitis, we haven't had this much activity since the last outbreak in 2019. So we've seen a few years with a lot, either no or very few isolations of Eastern equine encephalitis. Mosquitoes carry a lot of different diseases that affect humans, and those diseases are different all over the world. In Massachusetts, we're mainly focusing on Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus, but mosquitoes are the vector for these diseases, so that's why it's really important to keep an eye on what the mosquito populations are and how the diseases are behaving in the population.
The risk of contracting a mosquito-borne illness like Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus is highest during the summer months. But for entomologist Kaitlyn O'Donnell of the Norfolk County Mosquito Control District, the prevention of these illnesses is top of mind year-round.
We need to focus on things like source reduction, so getting rid of any standing water where it shouldn't be standing and allowing that water to move as it should be. So whether that is in a marsh or in a stream that's gotten blocked up with twigs, so we're trying to keep that water moving so that it doesn't become stagnant and won't breed mosquitoes. We're also doing surveillance, so we're looking for what species are out there, because we do have over 50 species in Massachusetts, but only a few of them are really problems when it comes to vectoring diseases or being a public nuisance issue. So we're looking for where those species are and when. The timing is important, and that surveillance information informs how we use our other control methods like larviciding and adulticiding. So we're only applying those products where we know that the specific larva we want to control is, or where those specific adults that we want to control are. It is kind of uncommon for them both to be high in the same year, because the viruses sort of need different things to proliferate in the environment. So Eastern equine encephalitis, usually we know that it's going to be a bad year if it has been wet for a certain portion of the year, because the mosquitoes that are the primary vector, they overwinter as larvae. So they need permanent water. A few years ago, it was really dry for the whole winter. So the wetlands that were carrying that specific species dried up. Our populations were really low. So we didn't really find many of that mosquito, and we didn't find a lot of Eastern equine encephalitis. The virus also cycles in the bird population. So if you have a lot of birds that haven't been exposed to this virus before, then the birds are more likely to become infected. And then that virus gets passed from bird to bird, and then eventually it will spill over into a horse or a human or other what we call dead-end host. West Nile virus works the same way. It cycles in the bird population, and then it takes a mosquito that bites both birds and humans to pass it to us. But it really does a lot better in hot and dry years, which this summer has been kind of dry, and it was pretty hot because the species that is the primary vector is very adapted to living with people. They're a container breeder. They like to breed in smaller catch basin or a overturned bucket or whatever it is. They breed in those kind of more man-made water receptacles, and in hotter and drier summers, those kind of fill up and don't get flushed out like they would in a wetter year.
O'Donnell conducts active surveillance to identify potentially infected mosquitoes, measure and predict risk levels, and implement targeted mosquito control efforts.
Mosquitoes can fly. So even though, right down the street from the office, we have a big wetland area, and we do get a lot of mosquitoes when we trap near there, but those mosquitoes can fly into nearby neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods maybe don't have immediate standing water, but they're close enough to water that those mosquitoes will travel there. So if you're only, treating one little pool of water for the larva that's there, not far down the road is probably another pool of larvae. And if you're only spraying one street with adulticide, you're killing what mosquitoes are there, but there are a lot of other mosquitoes in the surrounding area that can fly in. Really, we're focused on probably, I'd say, about a dozen when it comes to both public nuisance and disease carrying. There are some species that only feed on worms or amphibians. We don't need to worry about those because, one, they're not going to bite humans, and two, they're probably not carrying a disease that is going to affect us. So there are a lot of species that don't, matter when it comes to public health. And there are some species that don't take a blood meal at all. My favorite mosquito is the elephant mosquito, Toxorhynchites rutilus septentrionalis, and they are pollinators. They're very large mosquitoes, and as larvae, they actually eat other mosquito larvae. So they're a good mosquito to have around.
The Norfolk County Mosquito Control District is responsible for the prevention of mosquito-borne illnesses in 25 of Norfolk County's 28 communities. Founded in 1956, they're one of 11 regional mosquito control programs in Massachusetts.
We use something that's called integrated pest management or integrated mosquito management. And this really is using a lot of different tools to target one pest problem so that we're not relying on one method and we're able to really solve the problem in a much more holistic sense. We have a trap that's baited with carbon dioxide, so that's looking for mosquitoes that are in search of a blood meal, because that's one of the ways that they find us. They're attracted to the CO2 that we emit. So that is kind of luring them in when they're very hungry, looking for something to bite. And we have another type of trap that is baited with very dirty, stinky water. So that's looking for females that have already had a blood meal and are now ready to lay their eggs. So that's going to attract them to an egg-laying habitat, and then they get sucked up into the trap. We also have what's called resting boxes, and they're just an open black cube, and the species that carries triple E likes to rest in a dark, cool place during the day, so we go up with a vacuum and just vacuum out what's inside the box. We also have cups that collect eggs, and this is for our tiger mosquito surveillance. So this is an invasive species that has moved into Massachusetts over the past 10 years, a little less than 10 years. And it's been slowly spreading throughout the state, and we're kind of trying to track it, find out where it is. The larviciding we're mainly doing in the springtime. That's when we use the helicopters to apply directly to wetlands. So those are granular products. They're little pebbles, pieces of clay that have a bacteria in them that kill mosquito larvae and black fly larvae. So that's what our larviciding looks like. And people can request for us to come out and look at any standing water that they have on their property, and we'll treat it in the same manner as well. We're spraying all summer long, either in response to requests from the public or in response to disease if that seems necessary. If we've found a positive mosquito pool and we think we need to do a little bit of extra work, we will. And that happens after sundown. So we're only spraying at night when bees and other pollinators are sort of resting for the night and are protected. The product is designed, it is called ULV, or ultra low volume. So it's designed to come out in very, very tiny droplets so that they float and kind of remain in the air where the mosquitoes are flying. It's not designed to settle on anything, and it degrades in sunlight. So by the next day, that product is gone from the environment. What we're trying to kill, mosquitoes, they're very tiny. And this is a general insecticide that we use, but we're using it at a low rate that's going to affect a much smaller insect like a mosquito more.
Walpole Public Health Director Melissa Ranieri says the regional and residential level services provided by the Norfolk County Mosquito Control District are instrumental in preventing the spread of mosquito-borne illness.
It's great. It's a resource that we have for the town, so I definitely encourage people to utilize it. We work very closely with the district. Dave Lawson, who's the director there, is amazing, a great wealth of knowledge. For those individuals that were unaware, it's actually in our backyard. It's their business is right here in Walpole, so I would encourage them to, anyone to reach out. And then obviously they work throughout the mosquito season into the first, consecutive frosts that we have. And then obviously during the off season, they're preparing for the future years. But if one is looking to have their yard sprayed, they can go on the website and can fill out a request form. If you don't have means to the computer to do this, you could always reach out to them directly. So it is Norfolk County, so they do handle more communities than just obviously Walpole. It's all of the communities. So they do separate the days of service. So Walpole is a Tuesday service day. So as long as you reach out prior to it takes place at dusk. Prior to that, the day of, they should be able to accommodate you.
While the Norfolk County Mosquito Control District is crucial to containing and mitigating the spread of mosquito-borne illnesses, preventing oneself from infection is ultimately a matter of personal responsibility.
The whole thing is the Norfolk County Mosquito Control is a great program, but I just don't want people to think that's a one-size-fits-all and you have your yard sprayed every Tuesday and you can go about your day-to-day business, because that's not the case. You want to make sure that you're doing what you can do to protect your own personal self.
Until the next mosquito season begins in the spring, Kaitlyn O'Donnell and the rest of the team at the Norfolk County Mosquito Control District will be preparing for their arrival.